Guys, this is my thoughts on Lupin, the Netflix series, part one of it. Anyway, I don't like the show. I don't care for the show so much. To be honest, I'm not a fan. It's not. Here's why. This show is good fun, and I'd recommend it for pure entertainment and just watching it to pass the time during wherever you live, lockdown. But I have some issues with it that have to do with character depth, the main character, and also there's certain issues I have with the writing, like the villains or the antagonists, I should say. Repeat that, as well as including the police more. I would argue. But let me get to the things that I think are positive. One big thing, the reveals, right? The reason why I said it's fun to watch is because this is about a master criminal, this show, and he's essentially this guy who he pulls off these jobs, and once you get past maybe the first, second episode, probably the first for most viewers, you understand there's a formula, and you know he's gonna somehow pull off another job in the next episode and episode after that and so on, or whatever gimmick or trick he plays to get what he wants. But to me, the how of it, the exact process, the reveal of how he pulls off a certain job, how he maintains a certain disguise, how he pulls some certain trick to get a certain thing, that's the great part, because it's so much fun to just sit back and watch him, pull a fast one, or show how meticulous his planning was into the whole episode and a certain job he will do in the episode. And that's what I liked, and that grin he would do on his face. Awesome, Lupin. Yeah, you can tell, even though I don't speak French, you can tell that he's grinning. So I won again. I'm that G. That's what I liked about the show. It's not something to, in my opinion, take too seriously. But that's the positive to me. Again, it showed the entertainment sides with the reveals at various points. Now, to get to the main thing about why I don't care for the show that much is because, one, character depth. I mentioned that at the top of my review. This show is clearly with the backstory of the main character, Lupin, and attachments in his present life, certain goals he has. They're trying to set him up to be this Robin Hood figure type in the story. The problem for me is I don't feel like they're doing a good job of it. The writing to me is weak, and I don't care. I don't have sympathy for this character, even though bad things have happened to him. He does have a bit of a tragic backstory, to say the least. He does have personal things in his life worth, you can argue he's not just a purely selfish person. He does care. I just don't care. I don't know if it's like a mix of the people around him in the present day, certain people he cares about, the backstory, the strength, the writing in his backstory. I just feel like a feeling. Again, if I'm not thinking too hard, it's fine. But it was something that turned me off, to be honest. I don't feel sympathy for this guy, and they're constantly trying to make me feel sympathy for him. I love the pure criminal side of him, the jobs he pulls, the plans that go into it, and the reveals, like I mentioned earlier. And then another thing, a big thing that I don't care for with this show, but it's more of like a writing flaw. I actually wish there's a character in the show who you can tell is caught on a bit to his act, to the act of the main character, and it made me wish something. I wish that they wrote this show partly from the perspective of both certain detectives that are trying to catch this mysterious criminal, as well as the main character, the master criminal Lupin. That way, you can have more of a cat and mouse chase, in my opinion, and prioritizing that first and foremost in the storytelling would have made the show a lot more fun for me, a lot more intense, and just entertaining in general. And lastly, another issue I have with the show, the antagonists for Lupin. There are antagonists in the show who, again, it's personal for Lupin. It's not just a sense of I have to do this job, I have to get this so and so object. It's something to do with his backstory, the reason why he's going up against these characters. But there's something about these characters, they're just so bland to me. It doesn't feel like this show is trying to be, for the most part, something that's overly complex. But the problem with it is that I'm doing a review of it, so I have to think a bit more critically. And when I do that, it ruins the experience for me, because I just don't care. The writing isn't good enough to make me care like that for about these characters and about them going up against the main character. When it comes to villains, you don't have to, but I like it when it feels like there is a game of mental chess, right? One gets one up on the other one. I don't feel that way. And again, similar to my issues with the detective story, the amount of times the detectives have in this show, I wish the villains were revamped. They were more like masterminds, basically the opposite of the main character, the Lupin. If not that, then someone who is just a smart type of character, a Professor Moriarty type, a Lex Luthor type, who just knows how to counter someone like Lupin, right? To play him at his own game, or to trick him in another game. You know, make him think he's playing one game when he's that type of sensibility. I don't feel that way with these characters. They're just like, like something. This ends in an unclear way. The part one, the villains technically do, or the antagonist. I keep calling them villains. The antagonists clearly do get one up, but it doesn't feel earned to me in the storytelling. It just made me feel like this show could do so much more, even again on a pure entertainment level, if we just thought about the writing. And that's the main crux of it. Again, the character depth, don't care enough about him, about his situation, and wishing there was more of a cat and mouse chase with the police officers and him, as well as with the villains. I wish there was more of a like, oh, this villain feels smart, but he's got one up on Lupin, but now Lupin's got one up on him. That would have made a much better show for me and much more fun and entertaining. But you guys, that's my thoughts. Tell me yours down below. Press that like button, helps the algorithm spread to more lovely people like yourself. Please share it with everyone you know. Press that subscribe button. It's right there. Don't be shy, do it. Click. Other than that, guys, I'm off. Salute.